Thank you, Zoom. Now I'm just going to see on my phone and see that we are live, because this is new for me. Oh yeah, there I am. Okay, cool. Yay. Okay, so I'm streaming live into the group as opposed to in the event, which is what I usually do, but that is something that I don't know how to do. So it is what it is. Okay. Hello, everybody. How are we today? I apologize. Sorry, I need to stretch. I apologize if you hear any background noises. The kids are home from holidays and they're being a bit noisy with the babysitter. So, okay, let's get started, shall we? Today, we are going to talk about who are you? Who the fuck are we, right? Okay, so this is something that literally, it like, I want to use the word haunted, but it ate away at me my whole life. I was just like, who am I? I remember in school, I was so envious of the kids that knew like what they were going to do with their lives. Like that one was going to be a doctor, that one wanted to be a musician, whatever. Like the people that knew, right? They knew like, this is who I am, this is who I'm going to be, this is what I'm going to do. Like I find that what we choose to do is very connected with who we are, and identity and meaning is something that is very, very children, they're not being eaten, they are just playing. Basically, sorry, that threw me off. No, identity and meaning is something for me that has come up a lot, like a lot in my journey. My master's thesis was actually on identity and meaning, but in regards to the political conflict, like where do we derive identity and meaning from? So my master's thesis was about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the paradox of human needs, how we derive identity and meaning from conflict, but never mind. Not going to go into that, although if you want to read my thesis, feel free. I'm happy to share it. It was very interesting. Yeah, so basically, I really, really struggled to figure out who it is that I am or want to be, what I want to do with my life. And I can tell you that you think that things are just not working out and you're lost and you're confused and you're trying and you're this and you're that, and then something will happen one day when you start figuring out what your values are and you start aligning them up and you start kind of waking up, they call it, right, to what you really care about and what really matters to you and what really lights you up, and what you start figuring out what you're really passionate about, and then things start kind of falling into place when you make decisions based on those aligned kind of values. Now for me, that was a struggle because I was a gifted kid, so it's like I loved a lot of things, I was passionate about a lot of things like music and art and whatever, but it turns out that I'm just very creative and I'm very expressive, so I'm into self-expression and I'm into being creative. So you know, creating content online, expressing myself is something that now I can see is very aligned to the fact that I liked a whole bunch of different things, right? But at the time, obviously, that we didn't even have, well, we had the internet, but we didn't have like what we have today. So you never know what's going to happen and where things are going to lead. For another example, I was always really disappointed with my places of work, and so I tried a whole bunch of things. Like, so when I say that I didn't know what I wanted to do, I really didn't. I was in real estate, I was modeling, I was in sales, in marketing in a startup. I was in hospitality. I was in food. Like I did so many different industries, different positions. Like I knew that I liked management, and so I got into management eventually. And I really knew that I liked like having staff and employee, like leading. But I also, you know, as I went, I learned more and more. But I was like, I wouldn't stay longer than 6 months in one place until hospitality, which I stayed in for 2 years. And there it was because I really found myself kind of in a counselor, problem solving kind of position, and that really helped me figure out what it is I was supposed to be doing. I actually stayed there for 2 years, but 6 months in each job, that's a really shit CV. Like 6 months, 6 months, 6 months. But then when I ended up realizing I want to be a problem solver, and I went and I got a master's in problem solving, sorry, phone on silent, consulting for, you know, organizations, like that's what I realized I wanted to do. Then suddenly all of my experience in all these different industries and different positions really actually played to my advantage. So it's like a shit CV turned into a strength. So that's the kind of shit that happens when you figure out who you are and what you're supposed to be doing with yourself, right? Because everything suddenly that you've done that you thought was like a negative actually turns out to be a fucking positive. It's like, oh, that's why I was never happy anywhere, because I'm supposed to be like helping people solve problems and improve things, and like I was meant to see how shit things are. And I was meant to have all this experience in all these different places, because now I have a far better understanding when it comes to organizations and problem solving. Anyway, okay, enough about that. That was just a little bit of a background. Okay, just wanted to check if it was something important. It's fine, it's good. Okay. So another thing that I wanted to share going into this live about who are you is another little share about self-love, because it's something that I said that I would talk about, and it is something that is very relevant, and I shall connect the dots. Don't worry, it will make sense in a minute. But basically, if you had told me 10 years ago that I would be doing what I'm doing, I would laugh in your face. I would be like, what the hell? No. And the thing is, I actually got to this point by figuring out that self-love, cringe, is really, really important. Bear with me. So when I started my self-development journey, like really got into it and got sober and started like figuring shit out, I then had a little existential crisis, and I still didn't know what my purpose was. I'd had a child. I thought motherhood was a big piece of it, and it kind of is, but because it threw me more into self-development, and self-healing. Because for me, the biggest incentive to heal myself was so that I could be the best mom that I could be. But so that was a big part of it, was motherhood. But what I found this, okay, so Google's my best friend. If you know me, you know that. And I was Googling how to find your purpose, okay? And I have yet to find this blog. I've searched for it for 3 years, because I found it then when I needed it, and then it's disappeared. I have no idea where it is. I don't remember the name of the site or anything, so I can't share it with you, but I found a blog with a whole page about how to find your purpose, and it had like these prompts, these questions, and it was, all I remember was that it was connected to your traumas. So like, what like big lessons have you had to learn? Like, what big shit have you been through? And what did you kind of learn coming out of that? And what's the common denominator in all, like if you lay out all of your traumas and all of the like shit that you've been through, whether you call it a trauma or not, by the way, because at some point I didn't even realize that half of the shit I went through was a trauma. Like I didn't didn't connect those dots, but never mind. So like, if you think about the really big things that you've been through in your life, is there a common denominator? Now, the common denominator in most of the traumas that I've been through was self-hate, like a lack of self-awareness, not even self-awareness, because I was quite aware, but it was a lack of self-love, a lack of self-respect, a lack of self-worth, self-esteem, like all of that was just lacking. And that was the common denominator. Like, had I loved myself, had I respected myself, had I valued myself, had I known how to protect myself, had I wanted to like even, like, it wasn't even something that I was thinking about, was how to protect myself, like physically, like whatever. Point is that the common denominator was a lack of self-love. Like, if I use this umbrella term of self-love. So that was like a huge realization for me. And then the blog, I think, kind of said that if that's the common denominator, then that's your purpose. That's what you need to kind of be putting out there. And so I created a blog called Self-Lovism. Now, I was just writing about my journey, like a bit of a journal kind of thing. And then that I ended up putting on Instagram, and I would put like quotes and then like a caption was like my journal entry, and the quote would be like a really good quote out of what I'd written. And I was all about like, it has to be organic, like nothing, it was all mine, and it was all like things that I came up with, but I was like, every day I was in it because I was journaling all the time, and I was just like really intensively like working on myself. And so I would come up with all these like nuggets of like insights and like, this is so good and whatever. And so that's how my Instagram started, and it picked up a little bit at the time when it was still very much organic stuff. And then people started telling me that I was helping them, and so that's how I started. And then COVID hit, and I was just like, okay, I think I can help people like with this. And then that's how I started my consulting services. And so yeah, so basically self-love, which is something that really causes me still to cringe, because it is such a like overused cliche kind of term now, you know, like self-love is for someone like me who came from an environment that was very anti kind of emotion, like I'm like the black sheep of my family. I grew up in a family and in an environment where they're like, emotions are for pussies. And I had to kind of really work through that. And ironically, I deal every day with emotions, and it's actually like my zone of genius now. So it's quite, yeah, ironic, but never mind. But self-love as well, ironically, is something that I would really cringe about in the past, and it's something that I really embrace now and even try to put out there. But I don't use the word self-love so much because I do think it's a little bit cliche and overused, and like self-love, I don't know, I need to come up with a new word for it. But the point is that understanding that the lack of self-love was the common denominator in my shitstorms, then that's what led me to my purpose and to my calling, and to figure out who I really am and what I'm meant to be doing with myself. And so I really do feel that that's something that, yes, it was subjective and very personal to me, but I have a feeling that a lot of us lack self-love, and a lot of us that, you know, we don't know how to respect ourselves or value ourselves or prioritize ourselves. And I have a feeling that if you are here, then that may be something that might resonate in many ways, because I do believe that we kind of call and connect with the people that we kind of really do speak to on that level. And so if you're here, you've probably read my post, which the undercurrent is that's what we kind of lack. So for me, I very much want to help people focus on prioritizing themselves, hence the selfish society. And I want to talk about selfishness as well, because we think that being selfish is being self-absorbed and vain and putting our needs above others, and how that's a bad thing. And there's a very negative connotation around the word selfish. Okay, so I was called selfish for a lot of my formative years, and it was something that I really struggled with. Like, I don't want to be selfish, and so me calling my group the Selfish Society and the Selfish System, it's kind of a like a nod kind of to like a wink to something that I really was triggered with in my past. And now it's just like, no, we need to be more selfish, because the problem that we have, that so many of us struggle with, is that we're self-sacrificial, and we kind of give, and then don't understand why people don't give back. And there's a whole big, it's a whole thing. Like, I have a whole program about this, okay? Not just this, but like, it's such a big part of it. So it's important to prioritize yourself and your own needs, because only then can you show up as your best self, and therefore give from a place of like, I'm good, I'm happy, I'm healthy, my cup is full, you know, and I can give happily without expecting shit in return. And it's just good energy, good, you know, I'm just in a good place, and so I'm happily giving. And then when I feel off balance and it doesn't, like, I want in return, but I don't know how to ask for it, and I'm giving with expectations of receiving, and like, then it starts getting icky, and shit starts to go bad, and you get disappointed, and you get resentful, and you feel disrespected, and you feel unappreciated, and all these different things. And so the trick is to take responsibility for yourself and your own happiness, which was last week's live, I believe, how to take responsibility for yourself, and to show up for yourself, okay? Because we basically lead by example, and we show people how we want to be treated. And so if we treat ourselves like shit, chances are we're going to get treated like shit. If we don't value ourselves, then people aren't going to value us. If we're not respecting ourselves, we don't have boundaries, then people aren't going to respect us, because they don't know that there's no boundaries. Like, okay, boundaries, huge thing. I used to think that it was really cool not to have any boundaries. I'm really cool, I'm an open book, and I do anything, and I'm whatever. Like, I thought it was really, I was like proud of the fact that I have no boundaries, you know. It's not good. It's not good not to have boundaries, because then basically people can do whatever they want with you, to you. They can say what they want, they can do what they want, and they don't think they're doing anything wrong, because you're not telling them that it's not okay with you, because you are essentially saying it's okay. Do what you want with me, I have no boundaries. So yeah, so boundaries are very important, and when we don't have them, we feel disrespected, we feel let down, we feel resentful, we feel disappointed. So if any of you here feel disrespected, disappointed, let down, or resentful, please know that you should probably work on your boundaries. So yeah, I also wanted to share my screen with you about something that I wanted to share. I shared it in the group, and I just want to see, I want to see if I can do this. This is going to be really non-smooth, but bear with me. Share screen. Okay, I want to share my screen with this one. Let's have a look and share the sound. If you want others to hear sounds, connect your computer. Okay. I hope that you hear this. Let's see. This.
People say, oh, you're so selfish, you're pleasing you. And what they mean is, you should please me. You're selfish because you please you, and I'm not selfish because I think you should please me instead of you. There's some screwy reasoning going on.
Okay. Hold on. Okay. So that is another part about selfish and self-prioritization, right? Like people say you're selfish because you're putting your needs first. Well, you're not selfish then because you want me to put your needs above mine. Okay. It's a very good point. So hopefully that shifts a little bit when it comes to being selfish. Selfish is actually something really good, because when you are looking after you and looking after your own needs and taking responsibility of you, then that means no one else needs to. No one else is responsible for you. No one else is looking after your needs. You know, like it's actually very selfless to be selfish, right? Like if I look after me, then that means everyone else is free to just kind of look after themselves and do their own thing. Like I'm not burdening anyone by looking after myself. And part of looking after yourself, that doesn't mean I'm not going to get help or support. It means I know to seek help and ask for help and get support, because that's also not a dirty word, although we've been conditioned to think that it is. Asking and seeking help and support is actually a very empowering and liberating thing to do. It's a good thing, because then people know how they can help you. A lot of people say like, oh, you know, I'm not a mind reader. I didn't know that you needed this and this and this. I was like, well, you should know that I didn't know. No, fuck that. Communication. Look out for yourself, get your needs met. Meet them yourself, and where you can't and you need some help, you need some support, ask for it. And then allow people to help you and support you. Find the people that can. Good stuff. Okay. There's something else. This wasn't meant to be a long one, but it's just, this is like, I think I'm coming like, I feel like coming full circle. Like it's my whole business started with self-love, and then I'm doing the last live of the year, like kind of closing it with this, because it really is the crux of it. It's like so important. Literally the basis of my business is how to get yourself better, right? How to know better, do better, be better, feel better. Okay. Is there anything else that I want to share? Yes. One more thing before I do some prompts. Self-compassion. Self-compassion is also a big one that a lot of people are just like, how do I become self-compassionate? Especially when you're very self-critical, okay? So I'll try and think back to which one of my lives I explained it in. Maybe I'll add a link if anyone's interested. But basically, it's about letting go of judging yourself and shaming yourself. And because that's like the biggest cock block to self-development, when you're judging and you're so critical and you have that like inner voice like, oh, you dumb cunt, you know, it's not helpful. We need to be kinder to ourselves, more compassionate. And how do we become compassionate? When we understand, when you understand why you do the things you do, when you understand why you have bad habits, when you understand why you struggle to change them, when you understand why, then you beat yourself up less. Okay, when you understand why you did what you did, you're able to forgive yourself and be more compassionate. Okay, so understanding why is basically what I'm here trying to do and share. So it's the main, I think I'm trying to think how I can put this in a nutshell quickly. It's basically that behaviors are dictated by beliefs. So one area to focus on is getting very aware of what you believe about yourself or about certain things, like whatever it is that you're working on. Trying to generalize here to like help as many people. Beliefs is a big one to focus on. I will share a prompt about that as well in a minute. And also understanding that we operate our minds, like we operate in patterns. We like learning in patterns, we like repeating things. 95% of what we think is just autopilot. It's like the same shit. It's a pattern. It's repeat. We like repeating. We like repetition because repetition is safe. Why is it safe? Because it's familiar, right? And so we seek the familiar. We love familiarity. Familiar equals safe. So patterns equals safe. Repetition equals safe. Familiar equals safe. Get that in your head. It will, like, one day it will click if it doesn't click now. Okay. So like whatever we find familiar, we will think it's safe, even if it's bad for you. Like smoking. Oh yeah, lighting up a cigarette when I'm stressed out, when I'm whatever, or just even throughout the day, like it's been an hour. Okay, I need a cigarette because it's like it's familiar. Our head is saying that's safe. That's safe, even though it's gonna kill you. Well, not 100%, but yeah, it's very bad for you. But our mind is saying it's safe. That's I'm seeking safety, you know. So in the moment, if you're stressed out, your system is looking for some comfort. You're gonna light up a fag, right? Or it could be in what other patterns do we have? We have so many patterns. Being emotionally reactive, right? That was the workshop that I did. And that's a huge, like when someone triggers us, then our pattern is to be really reactive and defensive and like fight mode, right? We're getting stressed, we're getting threatened because we're getting triggered. And so that's familiar to the system because it's what we do. And so that's safe. And so whenever someone triggers us, the safe kind of response to the system is to attack back. But that's not necessarily serving us well. That's not conducive towards our relationships, towards our interactions with humans. Like we're like, okay, I know that I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to shout and scream anymore. I don't want to swear and curse and whatever anymore at the people that I love. Like, but it's a pattern. So my head is like, you know, it's really hard to resist that. But it's easier to work on this when you understand that that's what's happening. Okay, because if you don't know that your mind is just registering it as safe, as a comfort thing, then it's going to be that much harder because you're judging yourself as well, right? So it's like, I'm being a dick to this person and now I hate myself for it. How likely are you to now have motivation to like work on it when you're hating yourself about doing something that you don't want to be doing, right? It's much easier to work on something when you're like, I'm being a dick right now, but I know why, and I can try and explain that. But at least like for myself, like I know that I'm not a dick. It's just a pattern that I have somewhere started. I learned it from someone somewhere, and I have this pattern that I've been repeating because it was repeated around me or whatever. I picked it up, I learned it. So now I'm being a dick, even though I don't want to be, but I can be compassionate now about it because I know that it's something that I can change, that it's not, if I want something to do it differently, I can now practice to change that pattern. I'll be moving out of what my mind considers safe, but the more I repeat the new pattern, the safer that will be. You know, so it's like, it's just a matter of time and practice to shift what is perceived as safe to the brain. Okay. That was a lot. Take notes, watch it again. But that is basically like the main thing. I've said that about everything. Okay, it's all main things. It's all important, and it's all useful, and it's all like just stuff that I really want to share. I feel like I'm having like a purge live here because I want to end the year big and I want to give you as much as I can for free. But yeah, I think I covered the bits that I wanted to cover when it comes to who are you. Okay, so now I promised the reframes, which I kind of shared just now. Reflection and recognition are the next two bits that I wanted to gift you with here. And so we're going to do some prompts. So if you want, You can watch this, I'm assuming you might be watching this replay, and then you can stop the video, write down the answers, okay? Or you can just take notes of the questions and do it at a later time when you can. But this is something that, this is the difference between listening to what I'm saying and then actually implementing something and seeing what comes up and actually like doing some work about it, okay, like around this. So, okay, I have some prompts for you. And before I share the prompts, I just want to quickly squeeze in a little mention here about my program, because there's only a few days left for the next cohort to begin. We start January 2nd. And so if you like my content and you like how I deliver it and you want more of it, you want to learn more and you want to implement more and you want the tools and you want the skills and you want the strategies and you also want my guidance, you want the mentorship, which is the main piece that you're going to be paying for basically in the program. It's that you get access to me and I kind of guide you through the pieces, and you have me there to ask questions, to help you along, accountability. You get, you know, the private group as well, community of other people on the same journey as you, seeking the guidance and the mentorship to get through this and basically get through it quicker and cheaper than if you were to do it alone. Took me 10 years and hundreds, thousands. I'm saying hundreds because in shekels it's hundreds of thousands. In euros or dollars, it was probably about 100, 150 grand over a decade that went into my journey. So yeah, I want to make that shorter and quicker and easier and cheaper. That's my program. And yeah, if you don't know why mentorship is the way to go, then Google it. Google famous mentors. You'll see how many of the like biggest, most successful people in the world had mentors. So just saying, it's the way to go, which is why I created a mentorship program. So it is 2,400 euros, but this month, for the last time, it will be half price. So get in while you can. If you're on the fence about it, this is the cheapest it's going to be. So just letting you know so that you don't miss out on the opportunity. Prompts. I have some prompts for you. Okay, prompt number 1, reflection. Who were you this year? Now, when I say who were you, I really want you to explore, think about it, and you can look at it from the aspect of self-respect, self-prioritization, self-sacrifice, selfishness, how giving, how receiving, all of the kind of things that I mentioned in this live. Use those as kind of directives in answering this question. Okay, so who were you this year? Who were you? Were you creative? Were you self-expressive? Were you someone empowered? Were you someone who felt really small? Did you feel belittled? Like, how did you feel this year? Is also a good way to kind of approach this question. Were you very similar to who you were in the past? And I'd also like you to think about the beliefs that you have about yourself. So you can make a list as well. I believe that I am blah, 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 blah. So those are reflective prompts. Then recognition. We very much thrive on recognition and we don't get enough of it. So here's an opportunity for you to recognize yourself. Prompt number 1, what changed for you this year in comparison to previous years? What about you changed? What was different? How have you grown? What lessons did you learn? Now, based on those answers, I'd like you to also consider, what are you taking with you into this next year? Into 2023. It's just a nice kind of milestone, and symbolically it's useful to think of like a new year as okay, from now on, like as a marker, right? I mean, it's bullshit, right? A day's a day, but it's good to kind of reframe it as, okay, this next year, this next me, this next version of me, for the next 365 days version of me, what am I choosing to take with me in this next year? What parts of me, what parts of you are you happy with? What parts of you have grown? What parts of you do you like? What parts of you are serving you? What are you taking with you? What are you keeping? And what are you not? Which are the bits that you don't want to take with you? Let's get some self-awareness going. Let's get clear on what isn't serving us about ourselves. And who do you want to be? That is the question that I think I will end this on. Really, really write down, who do you want to be? And based on everything that I've shared in this live today, I will give you a little starting point to answer that question. If you're struggling answering that question, I will put in the group, I'll post about values. It's an online free test that helps you figure out what your values are. And that I have found is to be very helpful in starting that kind of path of, what do I care about? What matters to me? Because that's just a really good starting point on pursuing this kind of like, who am I thing, what you're meant to do. So yeah, so I'll share the freebie value test. You can also Google values or personal values test or something like that, and it's one of them, but I'll share the one that I use and that I like. And yeah, okay, that is it. And so, something I wanted to kind of say is that it's important to do this work, the reflection and the recognition and the looking ahead, because we have seen that doing this, like taking inventory and reflecting and then planning ahead, that works for the majority of humans. It works. When it comes to business and we're trying to make profit, then we look back and we say, okay, what's worked? And then we take inventory of our business, and then we're like, okay, now look ahead. What are we going to do going forward? Let's make a plan, business plan. And so we know it works, and yet we don't apply it to ourselves, which is the most important thing. Us, we are the most important. We're more important than a business. We're more important than making money. Our own happiness, health, well-being is way more important than that. And yet we invest so much in how to make businesses work better instead of how to make us work better. So that's basically what I'm trying to do here. So yeah, I hope it helps. I hope that that's given you the motivation to actually do it. If you weren't going to, rewind, answer the questions. Okay, it's my gift to you. Have a wonderful year. Happy New Year to everybody. And I shall see you in 2023. That's it. Bye.